Hello everyone, this is Jay High from Captain Keyboard, and here I am again, part 5 of our Best of Each Character series across all Smash games. And I'm starting with some hard ones. We're doing all the Smash 64 and Melee newcomers, prioritizing those. And so one of them being Kirby. This is our 5th one, third from the 64 series, and this was pretty challenging. I didn't know that much about Kirby, and I had to go into some places to where I wasn't very familiar in terms of Smash history, and I think it was pretty cool. So this is kind of my guidelines. Um, I added tourney wins since a little bit ago, just to make sure we keep in mind, like, hey, winning an event is, the goal of going to that event. Modern Ultimate, I think, is the toughest, but, I'm not, there's going to be a lot of 64 in this video, and I do think there are levels. I know I say this, but I'm also, like, going back to, like, early 64. So I do think that there is a difference. If I could add, probably, like, early 64 would probably be right here. But, like, I don't know. I do think it is very impressive to be at the top of any game. I am going to factor in how good a character is in the game, but I'm not going to take that away too much. It's more so a reward for, like, low tier heroes, not going to punish someone for playing a top tier. Like, that's probably what everyone should do. We just, people are stubborn. Now, here we have Kirby, the original iteration. Sakurai, Kirby was his baby. And so people theorize that, okay, he made Kirby broken. I think it was just the first Smash game, and things kind of worked out the way they did. A lot of hits done, huge up tilts, multi-hit moves, good edge guarding. Not an amazing recovery, but, like, good enough. And yeah, just generally a very good character. And then Kirby from 64 to Melee is probably the harshest change of a character in Smash history. Like, it's certainly up there. Like, Melee to Brawl Falcon comes to mind. But even still, like, I think this is just way worse. Like, Kirby just became just so bad. And, like, yeah, Kirby can do some things here and there, but, like, people are just saying don't play Kirby. Like, Pichu is better than Kirby, and that's bad. And then, stayed pretty bad in the official iterations, getting up to, like, the top 3/4 of the game. Like, this was near top half, but just because of the tier disparity, like, because of the top tiers being so strong, it kind of looks deceptive. Smash 4, not as bad as it was in Melee. And then in PM, doing all right. Some of the mods doing better, some of them not so hot. But generally, 64 is the only good iteration of Kirby. Like, there's passable versions. There's ones where Kirby's fine. But, Kirby is stubby. It seems like a lot of people think Jigglypuff is just better than Kirby in a lot of ways. Just in terms of, like, better drift, better kill moves, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do like Kirby. One of my original mains back when I started competitive Smash. I played Link, then I played Kirby, then I played Captain Falcon for a long time. Then I switched to Yoshi when Ultimate came out, and I was also a Marth main for Melee, Wolf for PM, etc. But yeah, so here's some of our characters. I put down everyone that has been on a ranking, plus some of the older players that were not on rankings because they didn't really qualify or they didn't have rankings at the time. A lot of players. We see some people that you're very familiar, like Super Boom Fan, Isaiah, but other people that, maybe haven't mentioned very much. And there's a lot of really good players. A shout out to Quapples. He is in my sub-region. I mainly know him through Melee, pretty solid Marth, and then also a very good Rivals player. So he's a very well-rounded platform fighter player, and, Kirby stuck to him. And I know we've done some Smash 64 events locally, and Kirby is the easy character to go to. I'm not saying they're necessarily good with Kirby, but Kirby is a familiar character. People, if you want to play a top tier, Pikachu's too hard, so you play Kirby. Like, that's kind of the stereotype of 64 Kirby. But a lot of people trying out Kirby, and some being pretty successful. Melee, much less. The main thing used to be beating Crimson Blur, which was Moon Knight did that, switched off of Falcon to go that. I think Serial Rabbit did that at one point. Triple R. Not a lot of good Kirby's. Like some did all right. We've seen some players kind of bring out Kirby in like exhibitions or like side events or online. Axe did this crazy stock against SFAT's Falco, where Kirby can inhale and then use laser and short hop double laser with Falco laser, and that is really good. So if Kirby had that in every matchup, I mean Kirby would be pretty good in neutral, but that's not every matchup. And then I think Ginger had some Kirby, and then Zane, of course, doing Saktua. Not necessarily the best, but definitely more notable recently. I haven't seen a lot of Kirby results in the past couple years offline, so cool to see. Brawl, Kirby's not bad here. We've seen a little bit of Kirby recently in terms of like going to stuff. We have some classics, some throwbacks with Shoot At and a few other people. Fallen being a very good Rosalina, and also Ling becoming a Peach main. But people trying out Kirby here and there, not bad, but nothing too crazy. Is maybe like a pocket character, Smash 4, Kirby was fine. I personally played Sility. Shout out to Sility, Virginia Tech. Really good Kirby. Really good at doubles. Would play Shulk Kirby, and then the Shulk version of Kirby would be just like Superman, like crazy. But yeah, people trying it out. Rishi, really good Marth and Melee. Would try out Kirby a little bit. Supergirl Kels, I think, is the only Kirby to be on a ranking when this was as a secondary. Obviously, she's a Sonic main. But yeah, people trying out Kirby, Mixed success. Puyo Classic and NVVA, I think, moved fairly recently. But, and yeah, some people I'll mention later. But yeah, and then Ultimate. First Kirby technically was Captain L as a secondary. Ron, I mentioned in the Yoshi video. Played Kirby a little bit. There's some very familiar faces here. Yeah, people trying out Kirby is like not that common. I think Kirby is kind of considered to be like, you can be anyone, but like neutral B is not that good of a move a lot of the time. Like, yeah, sometimes neutral B can be very good, but sometimes it's just negligible. Like, you're not going to become like Shulk is good. You have like Olimar. I have certain matchups, but like usually using a neutral B in singles against that same person may not be that effective. Like if you were to do that in a different matchup, if you could like squad strike, I could see that being useful if you get a kill and then you have a different matchup, whatever. But it's just not really that applicable in singles. Like I think Kirby's a very popular free for all character. People just like jumping up and then doing down B or whatever. Like it's a classic thing. You see it all the time. But yeah, and then. For mods, we saw a few good Kirby's for Project M. Curb, I mentioned for Game & Watch. He played a little bit of Kirby. Green Ranger, the DK. Shootout took his Kirby for both Brawl and Project M. Corey, Av, Shenanigans, these people have been ranked. I think Yador also had a pretty good early PM run. Triple R also trying out Kirby in this. Not very successful, but a little bit of Smash Flash, a little bit of ACR. Yeah, I think Kirby just is not necessarily that popular of a competitive character in terms of people like grinding out the character. There's been some interesting stuff. I know there's some down air loops that people are trying to do, and some pretty interesting stuff. But I think just like Kirby's pretty stubby. You get outranged pretty easily. You do have good edge guarding, but it's sometimes challenging. So here is our honorable mentions. Triple R, best melee Kirby in terms of offline results by a landslide. Did kind of get thrown into the hidden boss, kind of, not like honorable mention. It was like 50 players that were didn't quite make the ballot type thing, or they were on the ballot but did not really get any traction from it, which is better than not being on there. I think it wasn't always necessarily like super concrete in terms of who was selected. It does have wins on like Absent Page, Luigi Kid. Like these are before Absent Page was like top 30, but this is still very good. Corey got top 100 for PM. Had some good wins. I think beat Switch in CP9 fairly recently. Chudat was an older Kirby. Personally, I prefer like recognizing the advancement, but Chudat did beat Armada and did pretty good in early PM, and also was like in the top 25-ish. In the retro rank, they had him like HM just outside of top 20, so about top 25. So I think even though I valued newer results a little bit more, I do think Chudat has a slight lead here, but it's very close. And Jeshui Chalk, I think is how you say it. A French Kirby that has a Gluto win. I think also a Leon win, Orion, Mezcal. Like it's some pretty good, but definitely the Gluto win being very good. And then Revan, not to be confused with Wevens, the Melee Samus. Revan is a Canadian Kirby for 64 and got top 10 in 2018. Still enters some, like kind of top 20, top 30 range. Was pretty close. I think you could argue that Revan should be top 10. I think it's very close. But I had a few people that I want to recognize. And yeah, this was a difficult list for me to make. I was just not very, like, I didn't have those, like, for sure. Like, there was a few I knew, but, like, a lot of them, I'm just like, I'm going to uncharted territory. So let's see how I did. If you disagree, please let me know. Number 10, we have Kamota. Now, people mainly know Kamota for one thing. This win right here. Frostbite. It was a best of 3. We had Mario, one of the best in the world. And then against this Kirby that no one really heard of. And then this back air kills, and the Kirby wins. What in the world? Like, this is like, you know, people think back to Subspace with the original Mario versus Kirby matchup thing. And it's like, okay, Mario's better though, right? Like, and Mario has been better for a lot. But this match, like this upset was crazy. And I wouldn't even say it's just a one trick. Like, Mysterica, Darkshad, Ryuga, Player Unknown Rishi, and then like not very good in Ultimate compared, but like Andrew T is solid, you know, did fine in Ohio. Ohio was a very solid Smash 4 region, like one of the best. Darkshad, I think, ended top 50 in the history of Smash 4. So yeah, this was pretty good. I think that if you want to consider like I think Revan had an Isaiah win, which is like Isaiah's like one of the goats of the game. But I don't know. I feel like beating one of the goats of Smash 4 with a much worse character, I think that might be a little bit more impressive. You could argue it, but hey, I'm gonna try and be a little bit diverse. I'm not just handing it out to anyone that plays a different game, but I do think that upset and then a few more alongside it, very impressive. So I'm gonna get it to Komoda. Also got the last big house for Smash 4. Got top 32. This one was less top heavy, but still good. Yeah, solid performance here. Number 9, we have Tatsuman. Now this is old school, not like crazy like 2001 or like even before that first 64, but like this is like one of the first top players in Smash 64. Yeah, you had Isaiah back in the day, but like Tatsuman, very good in Japan. They used to do like single elim tournaments, so when he was winning these events, which these are all Japanese events, he didn't necessarily get as many wins as an opportunity. He also beat Josuke in a 12-character Iron Man, which is not technically bracket, but I mean that's still really impressive because since the Samus video, I've learned about Josuke. I knew he was good. I didn't know how good he was. Maybe I do a revision and kind of bump him up a little bit, but that's pretty notable. Even if you take that away, I still think that's very solid. Winning these early events, I mean, this is like, you know, like 2006, 2007, 2008, and I think this is 2008 as well. pretty much considered to be the best in terms of results for Japan. Like, you could argue Josuke was maybe better at the game as a whole, but Tatsuman, very, very good. Early, I do value, like, the 2013 to 2017. I think that's, like, that's a really core piece of Smash 64. So I think going way before that, I don't consider it quite as strong. And again, kind of got screwed by single elim, didn't get as many matchups. Fewer results for 64. We've seen that before in the Yoshi video. Kuraba just didn't have that many event wins, that many set wins. So 64 somehow struggles with that. Like, I feel bad, but it's still 9th place in the history of Smash. So good stuff, Tatsuman. Number 8, Kono Kururu. Now, this is someone I didn't really know about. I obviously knew about some other Ultimate Kirbys, but I did not know. I'm like, okay, surely there's got to be a Japanese Kirby. Like, Japan has so many good people and so many different characters. They're just a breeding ground for excellence in Smash Ultimate. And I found Kono Kururu. And yeah, very good results. I think had 7 top 100 wins total. Matsunabe, very good. Falco, Karage, Falcon. I think Eek is a Peach. A Kakukusu, very good. Hero, Gilhue in the Ditto, Gachi P, Koryoka, Reno. Just a lot of Abadongo, T, Leaf. A lot of really good Japanese players. And, got top 150 and top 200 in Japan. Maybe you can think that that's not that impressive, but I mean, I think Modern Ultimate is freaking hard. Got top 64 at Kaguribi. That's crazy. That's really good. This was I think, you can argue how stacked some events are compared to others, but like any Kaguribi is going to be stacked. And 49 is a very, very good run. Sometimes you benefit from people upsetting someone and then you beat them and it kind of helps your path, but that's not your fault. Also 25th at Kowloon. Usually Kowloons aren't quite a stack, but it's still a pretty big event. Didn't quite have like that super top, like upper echelon win on Japan players, but I think Kankuru is having a very good career so far, and we're seeing a lot more recent stuff. So I think that Kankuru definitely has opportunity and potential to go higher. Number 7, we have Hammerheart. Now, I did recognize Hammerheart from the Samus video. Hammerheart plays a little bit of Samus and Doogie but has some events where he pretty much went solo Kirby or main Kirby. I think that the argument between Hammerheart and Revan is pretty close. I do think Hammerheart has just a little bit more in terms of, I think they both have Isaiah wins, and then I think just has a lot more. I think Revan's only had 1 top 10, while Hammerheart had a 9th, a 7th, a 12th. So I think it is. I think Hammerheart is ahead there, and Snowso was a very good run, getting 2nd, top 16 at SmashCon. SmashCon usually the most stacked event. Apex ran 1. This one wasn't quite as big, but still good. In Pennsylvania, I think kind of like this tri-state Atlantic area is, there's going to be a lot of people there, a lot of players, and has done pretty good. I don't think 2025 did that well, but I'm very curious to see if we have. Technically, Revan is Canadian, I guess, so best American 64 Kirby, at least in terms of maining. But yeah, I think 64 is interesting because, like, if you can tell by now, some players like Isaiah, Boom, Kiro Karopi, Jaime HR, like people that have tried Kirby some, it's like, okay, they did fine, but like Kirby clearly is not like that much. Like if you look at, like, yeah, the results are good, but if you look at the actual wins they got with the character, I didn't find it to be that impressive. It's like, okay, they're using, like, Kirby was a pretty good, it still is, a good Yoshi counter pick. in 64. So some of them have Yoshi wins, like Kurama, Wizrobe, Prince, stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily like, I would expect them to win that anyway. I don't necessarily think that is, punching above their weight. And yeah, if they're really good, like it's hard for them to beat someone at their level because they're that high. So maybe you can argue that that's a little unfair. But I don't know. I think that just like having a lot more of these kind of wins here, like, getting those like top 50 wins, getting pretty consistent. Having these high level placings, I do think Hammerheart is pretty impressive here. Number 6, we have J-Jaw J-Jaw. Now, J-Jaw J-Jaw has been a menace in some brackets recently, having some crazy runs. Specifically, Let's Make Big Moves of last year. Getting to 9th place with Kirby at a stacked tri-state event, like, there were some killers in that bracket, and had a crazy run here. Also beat Snow at Riptide, beat one Afterburner, and this was like a pretty high profile win for a Kirby. Even a few years ago at 33rd SmashCon, this SmashCon was pretty stacked, and yeah, just a ton of really good wins. This is to where it's like, yeah, I think Cola was like 23rd here, Snow is like top 30ish, so you don't have like the super top echelon wins, but we have a lot of wins. Peanut before Peanut got super good, still good. Icy Mist, Loaf, Anthony Isn't Cool, 4 Mr. E wins. Just a lot of really solid wins all across the board. These people that like Kurama, not quite prime Kurama, but still good. And yeah, like this seems comfortable in a lot of matchups. Getting just outside top 100 for 4 rankings in a row. I don't think made the Delta rank for the second half of 2025, but still made the full, got like just outside top 125 for the full year. That's very good. I think J-Jaw being the best American Ultimate Kirby. You might say like, oh, that's, very specific, but that's still really good. I've, there's been some Kirbys. I know there's like Festive in like MDVA has been like solid. Shout out to Stephanator, had a little bit of Kirby experience here and there. And my local, but yeah, like I don't think you see Kirby very much, and like J-Jaw is definitely people's like idea of what a Kirby is, like carrying pretty much, like there's 2 people for Ultimate carrying it, and it's like 55-45. And so big props to J-Jaw for carrying so much of that. Now, number 5, the top half of the number part of the ranking, we have Kikoshi. Now, Kikoshi is someone that, not as early as Tattoo Man, but I would say is like not quite as stacked in terms of some of the later events. But if you look at the actual wins Kikoshi got, still pretty good. These like pretty high level wins, Isaiah, Boom, Prince, a few other like Sakiri, I think is a pretty good link. A few other players are pretty solid. This before rankings came out. Won some events, got second at one of these. This Apex, it was good. Beat Isaiah here. It was definitely a good event win. Some of those like obviously we think about like Apex 2015 being like this huge centerpiece for Smash. But some of the earlier Apexes were a big deal as well. I mean, we think about like Apex 2013, Apex 2014. Those were very formative in a lot of ways. Even like go back to 2012, 2011, 2010. Like those were big events. And yeah, so I think winning one was very good. You can argue Kikoshi to be 4. I think that'd be a reasonable argument to make. But I don't know. I think that Kikoshi has, like not a super long career. Has some good wins. Top 5, very good. And compared to this next player, I think they're slightly behind. Moyashi. Now, Moyashi has a lot more longevity. We have, first at Kanto 2010, and then second at Apex 2014, second at Kanto 2017. You can argue that maybe Japan had, few people enter. I feel like from what I saw, like there's a decent amount of good competition in Japan. Has 3 Boom wins, Kuraba, Wangera, Jaime, Keisuke, Bono, like a lot of pretty solid wins. I think like you can argue that maybe having those 2 Isaiah wins might mean more if you consider Isaiah to be better than these players. But I think Moyashi has more longevity, a few more top level wins. I think 5 and 4 are very close. But I'm gonna give it to Moyashi very slightly. Yeah, I respect longevity. I respect more recent results. Yeah. So if you disagree, that's fine. And then we have our top 3. I feel like there's a little bit of a jump here in terms of how much I consider these to be very good. But I can understand, like a lot of this is pretty close. I think some of them was like, okay, there's some huge drop downs, but for here, I don't think it's not huge. It's like I think it's decent, but not that much. We have Gilhue, very good Kirby, the best Ultimate Kirby right now. I am very impressed by Gilhue. Had some crazy runs. Didn't quite have like a peak of like a major like high level placing compared to Jja. But in terms of just amount of good wins, is pretty crazy. I mean, 3 Leo wins, Gluto, Ashimo, Meister. Like these are a really, really good amount of wins. I mean, like some of these are crazy. 46 hobby wins is ridiculous. But like this is a really good amount. Even beat Jja in the Ditto. Getting top 100. 2 separate times for a half year. This is like the Delta one, and then got placed higher than Jja in last year. I feel like you kind of have to give it. They have a pretty similar. I don't think either of them really have like longevity over each other. I think Gilhue having like Mexico, having access to more of these players definitely can help. Compared to Oregon, I think that you can say that that's a little uneven, but sometimes that's how the cards are dealt or whatever. And had some pretty good at the next Let's Play moves. Like Kirby was a problem in both brackets, not quite as far, but still very good. And 13 to Smash Factor, won a couple smaller events like this one, Warlock XX, 8. And a lot of really good wins. And we have like SoCal, we have some people that visit Mexico a lot. Even some people like that are East Coast or something like that. But still very good. I think that Gilhue is definitely in the lead for modern Kirby, and I could see Gilhue going up. I think it's going to be a little bit tough. I think it's just like the arguments where it's like you can get more wins, but like unless you start to really crack into like that top level in terms of rankings, I think it's going to be hard because these next 2 are very good. Number 2, I have KYSK. I looked up. I think it's Kiyoshi. I think that's the Japanese pronunciation of the letters. People used to say ksk or like Kisk or something like that. I don't know. Like people would say different things. But KYSK, I'll just say that, had a pretty good run in like this 2019. Got number 1. Had pretty good results before and after it as well. So I think that's definitely worthy of being in this conversation for best Kirby of all time. However, does play other characters too. Does play Falcon, does play Pikachu, I think. Yeah, I think plays those 3, which, those are pretty good characters. But for certain matchups, switches it up a little bit. I think doesn't like the Kirby Ditto, so might go Pikachu against Kirby, stuff like that. Does have wins. Didn't ever get an Isaiah win, but has wins on Boom, Karava, Wizro, Morio, Wangera, Marigo's Prince. Like this is a ton of good wins. Just really building up a really good amount of wins. I think being good more recently, I consider to be better. Having these event wins, Genesis 6 wasn't quite as stacked, but I mean winning West Coast, East Coast, Japan, it's very good. Obviously, Peru is like the other really strong region. I don't know if I don't think has been to Peru, or at least hasn't done amazingly in Peru. But still, when you look at like the more established regions in terms of like what we know, still did very very good. Does go other characters. I think if it was, if they were a Kirby main, more of those wins would count. But yeah, still really good. And yeah, I think a pretty close two. But number one, I have Fukuro. Fukuro. Fukuru. Fukuru. I think that's it. I'm sorry. But Fukuru has a decent amount of longevity. You might only see one ranking compared to three for the last one, but didn't really like qualify. Like wasn't eligible for rankings, but did not place outside of top four for 5 years. That's crazy. And like we had like fourth, seconds, and then like this 2017, Fukuru's like 2017 was one of the most dominant years in Smash history. There was like 5 majors that Fukuru went to. First, second. That's crazy. Like beat a ton of people. 3 Kuraba wins, 3 KYSK wins, Wario, Alvin, Boom, Isaiah. Like just filling out this huge amount of wins here, and has played was kind of like in the early teens, was playing some, doing okay, but like 2015 entered some, doing pretty good. Eventually started traveling more 2017, kind of like this prime, like Smash is huge, like people were putting more stuff into it, got to go out and so there was like Kanto and Kansai and stuff like that. Japan Smash Cup had, I believe, more prize money, so people were more incentivized to enter. Snosa became a pretty stacked one. I mentioned Snosa previously. And then SmashCon, again, usually the biggest one. Like Genesis was also kind of up there, but usually it's SmashCon. And winning that in 2017, pretty big deal. And then won some other, I think, again that year, won another event and then got second at a Peruvian event. I forget the Peruvian player that won. But, getting second in Peru has some people that you probably don't know as well. So did pretty good there. And yeah, just has a really, really good roster of wins. Now, the thing about 64, like I've said, they don't have a ton of sets just because sometimes in Japan they've done single elimination. Sometimes they don't have as many events. They try and make up for that by doing like round robin pools and waterfall and stuff in America. But Japanese players don't go to America as often, and sometimes with those pools you play against like the same like 2 tours, 3 tours. Like you don't always play like the other top level players in those pools, so it doesn't always necessarily benefit those players in terms of getting like high level wins for like the top level rank. It's helpful for people that are like trying to get into that like bottom half of the ranking, I'd say, but it's tough. But still has gotten a lot of good wins. I mean, good Japanese players, American players, a couple Peruvian players. Like Fukuru has a very, very good career. Hasn't played that much recently. I know KYSK has been doing more melee a little bit too. So entering other Smash games. I think Fukuru plays a little bit of Ultimate. So sometimes sometimes you want to mix it up a little bit. I get it. It'd be very curious to see when we have more longevity from like newer Kirby's, if they can kind of hold a candle to these 64 players. But yeah, I'm very curious. And then also we have our next milestone in terms of numbers. So our first one, I adjusted a little bit. First one we had Yoshi. 200 subs, already got that. We sent that donation to Daniel. Second one is currently still kind of loading up with Mewtwo at 400. Then I adjusted to where Samus for 500 subs, giving that donation. And then we have Game & Watch at 600. So currently Kirby is at 700. So yeah. Not quite as, not moving up as much as I want it to. But hey, I appreciate you, watching, subbing, any of that kind of stuff. I do want to kind of up the pace a little bit. I'm gonna start trying to do some of the newer characters in release. I'm gonna try one for this Friday. A character that is a ultimate newcomer, uh, and you'll have to see. Not DLC. I want to give DLC a little bit more time to breathe, get some more results. But an original character, original roster character from Ultimate. If you want to see what it is, you can join our Discord, and if you